Alright, Pen Gang, we back in here with another one today. Alright, so what do I want to talk about today and what's the thing? Because you know, Pen Gang with the thing. So the thing is how you can learn anything. I want to talk about study skills and things like that. Even though they're boring, they're essential to learning anything. And when you start getting in the field of acquiring skills to make money, this becomes even more important. So it's important to understand that there's ways to learn, and there's ways that will be congruent with your learning style. And so, even though you have different types of learning styles and things of that nature, there's a couple ground rules that you can't break. And so, that's how I say the art of learning. The art of learning is when it comes down to those ground rules you can't break, no matter what style of learning you have. So, first rule of wanting to learn anything and learn it well is surround yourself with people who already know what you're doing. So, you want to learn how to do carpentry or whatever, or you want to learn mechanics, anything, you know, from boxing, sports, you're going to have to find people. Or because it's the 21st century, 2020, you could look on the internet. You know, you don't always have to be in person to be able to learn something from people. They got a lot of online material, but the thing that's true about this is that the people that know what you're trying to study already, they're the ones that are going to be able to lay it out for you. I mean, because this self-teaching thing, that's true, but then your ego could get in the way by thinking you know everything just because you're able to Google things and you don't even understand the things that you don't know. So this is why the first phase of wanting to learn anything well is to surround yourself with people who already know the topic that you're trying to get into. You could save yourself so much valuable lost time, because there is a lot of things that are rabbit chases, so to speak. It's a lot of people that don't know what they're talking about, that they got that way because they self-studied and didn't have nobody to correct them. And so, this leads to the next thing you want to do. When you surround yourself around people that do have access to this knowledge you're looking for, then you start taking notes and comparing and contrasting the different angles that they have. Because if you start seeing more than one person, like say you got 5 sources, 5 people you talk to about building a house that know how to build houses. These 5 people are going to have different tools that they like, even though they got certain things the same. And they're also going to repeat certain things that you're going to hear from them all that are unavoidable things. And so, between those 5 people, you're probably going to hear the same basic tools, correct? You're going to need a level. You see what I'm saying? You're going to need the types of nails, the types of 2x4s, whether they be treated or untreated. You know how it goes. If you ever framed a house or did any of that type of work, it's basically the same essential thing. No matter what skill it is you're trying to learn, you're going to run into people, right? If you follow stage 1, and you're going to hear some things that overlap between these people's time telling you how to do this trade or do this skill. And then the other thing you're going to hear is some things that are different because they have a different approach to doing the same task. No 2 people are the same. There's different ways we learn to do the same type of thing. Like you know, I might like to climb a ladder a certain way with tools because I'm left-handed. Another person might like to get up a certain way because they're right-handed. You know, as in we carry the toolbox with a different arm. You see? But my point is, when you start hearing these different angles and things, these will help your own approach, because these different people's experiences are still worth something. So you take notes from these different people, and what you start noticing is you'll get overlap, and then you'll have different things that this one might have forgot to say and this one did say, because this one struggled with this type of issue and that one did not. And you might struggle with that type of issue, whereas the other one that forgot to mention it did not. And so this is very important because it leads to stage 3. Stage 3 is where you go and check your notes and are brutally honest with yourself on the things you understand and the things you literally do not. Stage 3 is very important if you want to do a very well done project, because this is what separates the people that do a haphazard project or a well done project. And so this is kind of how this will play out. Then I'm gonna go through the phases again. I know I'm being kind of repetitive, but this is important. This is very important. And so, phase 1, you've already been through. You surrounded yourself with the people that are going to tell you how to build a house, right? And so, you took notes and you hung out with them for quite a while. I'm not talking one day. I'm talking about you've been around them and you've been kicking it with them and picking their brain. You've been taking notes, sitting in. It's just like going to class for real. You need to treat it with that same respect because it is class. It's free class because it's knowledge for free. And you need to treat it with that respect. So you're around these people. They tell you their angles and you take notes. You see what I'm saying? About the subject they're talking about. So now you see your notes and everything. And you realize you don't understand all the tools that they were talking about and things like that. So now we're getting somewhere, because phase 3, that's when you start being brutally honest. Phase 2 is you took the notes. You know, you were listening to the people, and after a while you were memorizing some of the things and writing stuff down or saving it away in your data pad, because you know how us phone people are. But now you're on phase 3. You realize there's some things that you don't understand in your notes. So even though you were paying attention, there's some things that you don't get. And now you realize it's time to Google. And so, your next phase, after you deal with phase 3 and how to learn anything well, is that after you done realize what parts of your notes you don't understand, you are now to start Googling and looking up those things. So say you're trying to learn how to do drywall and you done found your sources, at least five different people that know how to do this task first. You done got the angles because different people had different experiences on their way. So just because this one understand this part better don't mean you got that part. You see what I'm saying? But you get their experiences, line it up, and then you realize you don't understand half of the tools that they named. So now it's time to learn the tools they named. See what I mean? So now you want to start understanding why there's differences in this type of screw. Why you put putty over the screws when you screw the drywall in. Like, these are things you need to start learning. And the best way to give it its proper respect is to give it its free time outside of class. Outside of the presence of these people you're talking to get this knowledge. This is on you. You see what I'm saying? So you look at your notes. Just because you have them down in your notes doesn't mean you understand every part of your notes. You need to look at them things and you need to start studying them. The things that keep being repeated between all of your sources are important to know things. These are must know things. So in your notes, you ought to have must know if it keeps coming up. It's important. And if it's something you don't understand, that's definitely one of the first you want to study on stage 4. You see what I mean? Because stage 3 is the note taking and the going over them. You know? Stage 2 is you got your resources, you took the notes. But you know, the reason why I say it ain't the full note taking phase is because when you're going over your notes, you're taking more notes and correcting them, which leads to stage 4. Stage 4 is filling in those holes. You know, the things that you don't know in your notes, you're starting to fill in their holes. Some of these things are going to be projects by themselves. Like if you don't know how to do social media ads, for example, that's a whole class by itself. Okay? Seriously. So we're talking about literally, you could be taking, like you could be writing pages, bro. But it's worth it in the end, because watch what happens. Now you go to your next phase, right? Stage 5. After you done plugged in those holes, you go back to these sources and you conversate with them and things, pick the brains again. If you're on YouTube, you watch those videos again, and you're going to realize that there was a lot of nuggets of wisdom that were dropped in there for those that understand the terms that you don't understand, that you now have learned because you filled in the holes. And so now you're going to start understanding and seeing the picture more of what they're doing. You see what I'm saying? And so this leads to the next phase. And the next phase, after you start going back and re-gleaning those jewels, because you started understanding and plugging in the holes in your own game based on the notes you took, now it's time for your rough draft. So even though this is a tedious process, watch what starts to happen. Now you do your rough draft and you realize the things that they couldn't teach you. Like the things that they didn't think about to say, because when you do something, there's intuition that goes into it and experience. And you can't really just teach experience, you have to get experience. And so now you mess with this thing and you're gonna come up with questions you didn't know to ask at all. And they didn't really think to answer, because like, you know, you can't think of everything. And so this is why you go back to the people again. You done did your rough draft, now you go back. You see what I'm saying? And you start talking to them, comparing your experience. And so they can laugh and go, oh man, I remember I tried something like that before. Here, man, call such and such. Like, this is how that stuff happens. Networking. Like, people are happy to help you when they hear you're interested in something. But when they see that you're doing it and they already do it, it's a whole different type of conversation. Because now they see how much your understanding is, to where they know they're not wasting their time with trying to give you something that's over your head. Like when you're just getting ready to start with something, people that know how to do certain things, they're not going to tell you everything about it, because there's some things you're not going to understand. They're going to tell you the way to get it started. And once you do your rough draft and you want to go from being someone that just knows how to slap something together, like, okay, your first time ever doing drywall. If you talk to people that have done drywall for like 20 something years or whatever, now your conversations are going to start getting interesting if you let them teach you. Because just because you know how to hang it doesn't mean you know how to drywall, son. You feel me? There's people out here that have been doing it 20 years. They know the game compared to you, mister. You done did your first wall. And so, when you get to talking to them though, let's say now you done walls for about a year. You know, because the first time they're going to be like, oh yeah, he's finally getting into it now. And so they're going to tell you about the tools and get into more detail. They're going to give you their personal ideas about them, right? But now you've been doing it for a year. You done ran into some situations that you didn't think you'd run into, just because, you know, you understand the skill, but nobody tell you how everything could go wrong. You know what I'm saying? So you run into these situations, and now you get to talking to the big dogs about it, and they laugh and tell you, oh yeah, well, I'd have been here before. Not every one of them done hit the exact same issue that you hit, but there's a lot of unorthodox fixes, is what I'm interested in telling you. And even though I'm using construction type things to try and get my point across, this is true about much more than construction. It's true about boxing, anything. Like, you want to box everything, your coach will help you, but he can't really give you the real gold until he see you fight or spar. I mean, you could throw the best jab, cross hook, and have the best defenses like that the gym ever seen, but your coach ain't going to be able to start giving you that real stuff, the real stuff, until he see you spar, so he can start picking out your tendencies. Because you're going to start running into stuff that experience is going to have to fix, because your body going to naturally have its own tendencies. This is just like us with learning any new skill. We're going to naturally have certain things that we do that's not right. And that's where fine-tuning comes. You done did your rough draft now. You want to go ready to get the final project. You go and talk to people that know how to make a bomb version of what you're trying to do, and they start telling you everything you did wrong in your rough draft, but you're able to conversate with them about it now, so you're able to understand it. And this is how you learn anything. Pain gang, that's the thing. So let me go and give you a recap. Phase 1, surround yourself with the people that know the knowledge. Phase 2, take notes from these people that are talking about the knowledge. As in, you know, start marking it down, compare and contrast to what you hear and what keeps repeating and what's different. Next, you start going over your notes and being honest. What do you understand and what do you not understand? That's phase 3. Phase 4 is filling in the holes. The things you don't understand, you will now learn. And then you come back to phase 5, which is going to the people after you done messed around with your rough draft, because you done filled in your holes, found out what you're learning, and you done went back to the people and re-gleaned the knowledge. So, excuse me, phase 5 is a recap. You filled in the holes and then you went to recap to the people before you do your rough draft. Got a little bit ahead of myself there. But then after that though, you got phase 6. That's where you actually do your rough draft. Because you went and got a recap on the knowledge that you already had. You took your notes, you learned the things you didn't know, and your notes filled in your holes. And so now you went back so you could see if they've mentioned any nuggets in these lectures. And usually they do. You know, there's some stuff in there that goes over your head until you know what they're talking about. So then we go to phase 7. And phase 7 is where you do your rough draft. That just gives you the experience. That way you know what you can run into, what you can't, and what's unexpected that could pop up and happen. The next move after you do your rough draft is you go back to the people that know how to do the task already, and you tell them about your rough draft. You say, okay, I started this project, this is where I got with it, and these people already done did the project way before you, and they're your teachers, and so they'll tell you what you did wrong about it. So that's the next phase of that. And so then after that, you'll go to phase 7. And when you go to that phase, what that'll be is you complete the project. You take the advice that they tell you and you put it to work. Make yourself a better project. All right, and I'm out.